So on to part 5 of our Cinema 4D signature courseware from 3D Garage. And in part 4, you got to see some motion graphics done pretty traditionally, building a logo with some of the tools, animating elements, building elements, putting surfaces on. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit and we're going to build a scene using MoGraph. And MoGraph is a really powerful system within Cinema 4D that can help you build not just logos and text objects and things like that, but also some really cool effects. And that's what we're going to do now. And you take the combination of what we did in the last project with some of the things we're going to do in this project, put them together, and you can have some really dynamic animations. So with that said, up here is the MoGraph panel. And in here we have a text object, instance, fractures, cloners, and so on. Well, how does this work? How would you use this? Well, what I want to do, rather than just kind of going through some of the tools, is actually put some of them to use. We're just going to create just kind of a fun little animation. So we're going to start with a basic cube. And what I'm going to do with this cube is just kind of flatten it out about like this on the Z. Okay, we're going to make some tiles. And I'm going to give it just an extra segment on the Z as well, so we can surface it. We're going to give one surface to one side and one surface to the other. We're also going to put a fillet on and move in a little, and we're going to bring that subdivision down, and we're going to play with that radius just a little bit like this so it sharpens out those corners. And maybe we'll put one more subdivision. Okay, so just enough in there that's going to make that thing just a little bit nicer to work with. It's going to render a little bit better for us. Let's make it editable. Click that little guy right there. We'll go to polygon mode, and we're going to take this polygon, press U, and then Y to grow the selection. And we'll do that a few times so it repeats. And let's just make sure that we have our corners selected as well. So hold the Shift key. You could have also used just sort of a lasso select as well. That would have worked fine for us. Kind of like we did in some of the other projects. But just holding the Shift key and coming around to these corners. And make sure you get in all the corners too, like that. This will just help reinforce our selection abilities. Okay, that's good. And a couple more right there. Again, holding the Shift key and just adding. Okay, press the O key, fits it to view. Okay, so for this guy, we're going to set a polygon tag like we had before. So we'll come down to Selection, Set Selection. And this guy here would be Front Tile. Easy enough. And then we're going to go back to Selection and choose Invert. And now the back ones are selected and the front ones are not. And then make sure you deselect that one. Select back on the cube, and then we'll go Selection, Set Selection. Otherwise, if that first polygon tag is selected, you won't be able to create a new one. And we'll call these back. I think that's right. Did I say tile? Yeah, let's call it tile as well. Keep it consistent. Okay, so our front tile and our back tile. And we can surface those later, but now they are set up. And the reason we're doing that first is because we're going to now clone this object. The way we're going to clone that is up here in MoGraph, and let's deselect there first. Now that I have my cube set up, some nice edges on it, two surfaces, let's zoom out a bit so we can see what we're doing here. And from the MoGraph drop-down, there's a number of different clone objects. There's a cloner object, a matrix object, there's a grid clone, radial clone. Well, we're going to choose the grid clone tool rather than an object. Okay, and quickly, let me just show you the cloner object. If I take that and I drop the cube in there, I can come in and add some clones, make a lineal, make them radial, play with the radius. And anytime you see these little dots right here, see all these dots? That means it's animatable. Okay, we're not going to animate that just yet. What we are going to do for this cube, however, is use the grid clone tool. And this will work a little bit better for us. Because what I can do is say, give me 20 on the X, 20 on the Y, and none on the Z. And then I literally can just click and drag, and I've got my clones. And that's what I want. I want this wall of tile. Okay. If you don't like how it looks, you can pull out a little bit more, do it again, and just kind of go like that. And that's all we're doing with this one. We're not being too precise. We're just create a nice wall of tile. Okay. Now that took that cube in there, so I can actually take my original and just hide it if I want. Put it somewhere else. Can even just get rid of it because I have all my clones now. And if you do a Command R, you'll see that they render just fine. Make sure you turn off that cloner tool. Go back to your select tool, because with that tool still on, you'll still be cloning. So, okay. And what's cool about this is that now that we have all of these clones, and I think I needed to separate them just a little bit more, we can put surfaces on here, and when we do this nice render, we've got all these nice tiles to work with. Okay, so how is MoGraph going to fit into all of this? What can we do with this? Well, let's move on to the next video, and I'll show you what we're going to do.